activity. John Moore, would you be gracious enough to come up here and give a report for the city of Richmond? You are so able, very much a great supporter of RAGS. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thanks to John and Christine and Rich, who all invited me to speak tonight and give just a little some comments from the City Council on my behalf. And I'd like to thank RAGS for the work you do in preserving the history of our community. I'm sure those council members, Mayor Ricks and Mayor Pro Tem, like Mr. Ravish, that are here tonight would agree with me that the city feels very strongly that our partnership with RAGS is very important. And it can be evidenced by the work we do together. Certainly the city helps RAGS with the Heritage Festival and working with Don on that. We work with you, and you help us with our Home for the Holidays event by being open and having events at the village that night, as well as many other events through the years, whether they're in our park or at our community center. So there's always a good, strong partnership there with those events. You work well with our cable team, right on cue, here tonight taping this program, as they do many of the programs that you have through the year. And then, of course, kind of the unsung heroes often of the city are DPW to assist with kind of the maintenance and things that they can do and can help with over at the village. So, you know, we have partnership there. We also, through our Tax Increment Finance Authority, clearly have, over the years, had a financial partnership with RAGS. This year was no different. I think we helped with the painting and cleaning of the schoolhouse. We provided $10,000, I think, in July for the gas station program or project. And it's always been very beneficial that Rich Weiner, who I believe is the head of your long-term preservation committee, sits on our TIFA board and our planning commission, and so he keeps us very up to date on all the projects and events and happenings at RAGS, and keeps the city working together. I do apologize to Rich that when he took Tom Habel's position on TIFA, that he also took all the grief that the TIFA board normally gave to Tom, and they every monthly meeting now give it to Rich. So we thank Rich for having big shoulders to take that. I would like to mention one project that the city has undertaken this past year in preserving our community's history in the kind of the taking over the Roosevelt Civic Auditorium. It's clearly one of our most historically significant buildings in the community, and it had much needed maintenance, and even probably beyond maintenance, that had to be done this year. We've put a new roof on the building. We've essentially rebuilt much of the southeastern wall and corner. The brick was literally about to fall off the building. So we had to have that reconstructed. We put a new hot water heater in. Unfortunately, with the windstorm that came through, a portion of the new roof had to be redone. And so while I had hoped to be standing here tonight to tell you that the building is open, we anticipate that probably next month, administration will be working with the city council to try and schedule some type of grand opening, hopefully in February, where we had hoped to get it done this month, and we're going to be very, very close. But not close enough that I was comfortable sending out invitations to all of you for a grand opening event that had to be postponed. So again, I expect that will probably be in February that we have that event. Again, it'll be to be determined when we meet with council to talk about it. But it's really been a great project. The building, you know, the structure is there, you know, and back in the 30s, they built buildings to last. And so with the efforts of the City Council and our TIFA, we're bringing that building back around, and I think you'll be very proud of our efforts once it's done. So with that, I'll turn it back over to John, and again, thank you for the partnership with the city.
Rich Weiner, come up here and give us your report from the Long-Term Preservation Committee.
Thank you, John. Hello, everybody. I'd like to invite Norm up. Norm is sort of the key guy behind all the work we do at the village, and if it needs to be done, Norm is there to figure it out. But before we get started, I couldn't say anything without acknowledging the 2022 Volunteer of the Year, Lori Ricks. Congratulations. She raised the bar. I think we have quite a few Volunteers of the Year here tonight. Pat McClellan, Keith Ringert, Tom Habel, and me. But yeah, oh yeah. Anyway, we'll just get, you may have already read through our report, but I thought I'd just touch on some of the high points. Our committee is made up of this year Norm Gibson, Tom Habel, Dave Foster, and Bob Cohagen. And I'll talk a little bit, then I'll give the mic to Norm because he'll have a few things to add. Last year, about a year ago, on the coldest day of the year, January 15th, Tom Habel, Gary Battassi, Parker Trend, Nick Simoli, and Dan Habel literally picked up the donated 45-foot tall windmill and hauled it over from Lindsay Road to our historic village. And throughout the rest of the year, Norm and his crew of volunteers started restoring it, taking it apart, and scrubbing off all the rust and corrosion, and then painting it and restoring things so that it would work again. We took the aero motor part apart and resurfaced the blades. And then in September, when everything was sort of refinished, Gary Battassi brought some of his special equipment over to lift the windmill up, and we dug some holes for a foundation and got it standing up. So about a week later, we were able to put the actual motor on the top, and that was by October 25th. I think we had a platform built and water flowing out of the pump. So some of the people that volunteered to help on this project, it was pretty intense. Tom Habel, Christine Raleigh, who coordinated with Lori Gore, who donated the windmill, Norm Gibson, Diane Gibson, who brought the cheeseburgers, Dave Foster, Doug Logan, Bob Cohagen, Dave Vellamy, Don Graham, Doug Porritt, Al Collins, Dan Habel, Nick Simoli, Gary Battassi, Mike Buckert, Sean Buckert, Weldon Felco, Gordon Mackley, Dennis Blake, Andrew Russo, Clark Atterbury, and myself. And then one day we put out a request on Facebook. We needed to move the windmill out of the way for the Heritage Festival, and about 20 people showed up, right?
Yeah.
We picked it up and carried it over. So with that, I'll let Norm give us a little.
It was quite a project, took an awful lot of people. Some people put in an hour or two, some people put in many, many hours on that project. And so, to paraphrase somebody else, it takes a village to get a project like that done, and we have that village type thing. I would like to make another comment, and Warren Schwark, who passed away a couple of years ago, had talked about how this was the Richmond Area Historical and Genealogical Society, and we always took that to mean the 4 townships and the city. So out of Columbus Township, we have the depot. Out of Lenox Township, we have the cabin. Out of the Richmond Township, we have the schoolhouse. Out of the city of Richmond, we have the barn. Now out of Casco, we have the windmill. So now we have them all. And I think that's really something.
This spring, we were able to finish the schoolhouse painting project. We did receive a $2,000 matching grant from Tifa for that, which, you know, it costs over $4,000, and when the city pitches in half of it, that's pretty great. Mike and Sean Bucker did the work of prepping and doing the painting, going up on the man lift, and et cetera. Do you have anything to add on the school?
We did
Oh, the
some work on the floor joists on the west side. When I went to put some siding back on and I put a nail into it, the nail just went into rot. And so we had to get in underneath there, replace some floor joists, or sister some floor joists, replace some, or sister some studs and whatnot, and put in a new sill, those kinds of things to shore it back up, get it back into shape so it isn't going to fall down. So that was one of the things, not just painting it, but we had to do some structural work to it and replace some siding.
Yeah, a young fellow, Mike Muscat, who isn't here tonight, he volunteered to go underneath. I think Don Graham kind of went under there maybe for a little bit. It's not much room, and he was under there for a few hours.
Yeah, Mike could fit underneath there. We couldn't.
Yeah, definitely. Big project this year is the historic filling station, which is still underway, but this membership came up with a list of ideas for us to develop on the property, and one of those ideas was a filling station, making it out of the existing garage. We were able to come up with people to bid on the project, and Set in Stone, located here in Richmond, got the project. They had a real good solution for it, and they were very reasonably priced. We were able to get funding from all your donations, and Historic Tea helped supply a good portion of the money. The foundation granted us $10,000, and also the city Tifa fund granted $10,000. So we've spent about $55,000, and we've raised about $55,000. We have a little ways to go. You have to get the electrical done. It's about another $6,000 for painting the inside, etc. So if anybody would like to make an additional donation, you can do so by mailing to the Good Old Days or going online and making a donation.
Yeah, we're almost there on that. And one of the things that's going to be happening when we get it ready to put up exhibits is that we'll be looking for donations of possible exhibit items. And I just say possible because some stuff comes in that we really can't use, don't have room for, or does not really go with it. But we're interested in looking for anything that might go into that filling station that is 40s, 50s period, and ideally has some kind of history here with the city to go in there. Again, we're limited space. You know, I'm head of acquisitions. Sometimes I see some neat things and I have to say, no, we don't have room for it, type thing. When we get the rest of the block, the city block there, and build some more buildings and whatnot, then we'll have a chance. But that's a pipe dream.
Would you like to cover this, and I'll get... We have a short video of pictures from all this work.
Well, I think we basically got everything here. When we get the electrical work done, we're going to be painting the interior. We've got to work on the floor, get it so that it's a proper floor for it, get it finished. Probably build some display cabinets or building displays of shelving and so on. So those are some things that have to do with the filling station. One of the things, of course, that we're going to need is we're going to need some gas pumps. And we're in the process of debating whether to put original gas pumps outside or whether we get reproduction ones that we put outside and put the original ones on the inside for exhibit purposes. So still a lot of work to do in terms of getting it actually open and in business. We're hoping that out of this process that we'll get some new members who are car club type guys that might be attracted to this particular exhibit area. Other things that we're planning on doing, we're at least looking into, is that we have cedar shake roofs, and we have to look at long-term preservation of them. What kind of treatment should they get, and when should they get it? The schoolhouse was the first one to get the modern cedar shake. Then the log cabin has got a new cedar shake roof to it, and of course the barn has a cedar shake roof to it. Properly taken care of, these roofs should last 75 to 100 years. They cost twice as much as an asphalt roof, but they last 3 or 4 times longer if you take care of them and you don't let algae and stuff grow on them, you know, that kind of thing. We're also taking a look at what it's going to take to seal the logs on the log cabin so that bugs don't get into them and mess them up, and so that rot doesn't go into it. Rot is a terrible thing, and all it takes is water to do it. If you followed us on the Facebook page, you'll see that we're replacing a couple of the upper bolsters on the logging sled, and I posted some pictures showing how rotted those had become with water that got into it, and they were just basically starting to fall apart. So those are the kinds of things that we're going into, and I guess, Rich, take it away. You want the... Put a belt on that and run a generator or something like that.
Yeah.
One of the things we enjoy when we gather in these is to share our health and our accomplishments. It's great to see these experiences. Ken Simmons, where are you hiding? I need you to come up and give us a little snapshot of our financial health. That one of the joys we have is a partnership with our foundation.
Thank you, John. Well, I wasn't sure if they turned the lights down so people wouldn't see you sleeping when I give my report or not. Our money in the foundation is invested in the stock markets long term. That's why it's there, because the stock market goes up 3 or 4 years out of every 5. This has been the worst year in the stock market since 2008. And I don't expect the first half of this year to be any better, but hopefully the second half will get turned around. But I thought I'd take a few moments to share with you a bit of my personal family history because it ties in with what I want to say. My mother's father, John Michael Herman, was born in Lvov, Russia in 1877. My mother's mother, Dorothea Fink, was born in Unterwalden, Russia in 1894. They were known in Russian as Volta Germans. If you want to know more about that story, ask me later. But they didn't meet in Russia. They met in Michigan. And in 1910, my future 32-year-old grandfather married my future 16-year-old grandmother. And they had 15 children between them, 13 of whom survived to adulthood. But those children were not born in Michigan. They were born in Oklahoma. Grandpa Herman wanted to be a cowboy, and he was only 5'5" tall. My mother was the 10th of those 13 children. She was born in June of 1929 in Goatee Bow, Oklahoma. Well, when the Dust Bowl hit, Grandpa gathered up the family, all except the oldest daughter. She was already married, and went to California. Couldn't find a place to settle there, shades of grapes of wrath. So they came back to Michigan, settled on a farm in St. Clair Highway. And when my grandpa was done farming, they settled in a house in Richmond on the inside curve of Parker and Water Street, right behind the Deluxe Party Store. My father's mother, Gladys Crawford, was born in Columbus, Michigan in 1898. My grandfather, Earl Simmons, was born in Columbus, Michigan in 1899. They got married in 1915. And when they were done farming, they bought a house on Parker Street, right in the middle of the block between Churchill and Park. In January of 1949, my parents brought me home from the hospital, and we went to a house on the Hart Road, 31-mile road, which my father had built the previous year with a kit he bought from Sears Roebuck and Company. But the following year, we too ended up on Parker Street in Richmond, and I lived on Parker Street from the time I was 1 to the time I was 16 and a half. In 1879, when my Grandpa Herman was 2 years old, the residents of Beebe's Corners, Cooperstown, and Lenox, formerly known as Ridgeway, voted to form a new community, the community of Richmond. And that's been a community that's been a blessing to all of us. That's why we're all here. Excuse me, I'm just getting over bronchitis. Some of us were born and raised here. Some of us went to school here. Some of us met and married here. Some of us moved here, even from far away. Some of us worship here with others who share our values and beliefs. And some of us are lucky enough to even work here and earn our living here. Think about it. The Lions Club and the Rotary Club serve the community. We celebrate the community. All of us have friends here. As a result, we're supporters of the Richmond Area Historical and Genealogical Society. We celebrate not only the events that have happened here in the past, but the families that have lived here. And our story continues. We memorialize a lot of that in our historic village. Think about this. Richmond does not have a natural attraction like a river or a lake. We don't have an entertainment district or a restaurant district. Our businesses are stretched along an old Indian trail that went north off the old Gratiot plank toll road. People come here for the league tournaments and the weekend after Labor Day for the good old days. But our historic village is a year-round attraction, and people come here from other states as well as other countries because they have a connection to Richmond. Your support has made this possible, and I'm here to thank you for that support and also ask you to do something else. This organization has been worthy of your support, and that's why you've done it. I tell my clients that any person that you have supported during your lifetime, any organization, any church that you have is worthy of consideration to be a beneficiary of yours upon your death. Now I have a handout that Sarah's going to go from table to table handing it out. It's called a plan giving cheat sheet, and it tells you the various ways that you can leave assets to the foundation. I want to thank you for what you've done in the past. I want to thank you for planning to do something in the future. Thank you.
Sarah, I thank you for being drafted to be Ken's right-hand lady. It takes a group in the foundation, and as you'll see in just a little bit, the listings of the foundation officers and those that we'll be affirming for the new year. You'll also find 2 pages of reports in your handout that have tell of our funds that are held by the foundation or overseen by the foundation. You're also going to find the one page called Rags Treasury 2022. It is a history of how we did financially in the year. Diane Gibson, would you be gracious enough to wave your arm? You're the hopefully soon to be outgoing treasurer of the society. If any of you have any questions about that, feel free to talk to Diane. She's one thing I've appreciated as president, I can just at any time, day or night, 24/7, ask Diane the most minuscule of questions about our finances, and immediately she just jumps to them and gives us those informations and so forth. Doug Logan, come up and point out the folks that we're having incoming to our boards and our responsibilities. You'll look past the page that says Rags Donors to the 2023 Nominating Committee Report.
Thank you, John. I am Doug Logan. I was on the nominating committee with Marguerite Little and Doug Porritt. And we have the following persons nominated for positions in the society. For President, Diane Gibson. Vice President, Don Graham. Secretary, Chris Nolan. Treasurer, Lori Nye. And a board position for Norm Gibson. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Okay, with that, with no nominations, the slate is accepted by acclamation. Okay, thank you. Now we have our 2023 society officers. And for the foundation board, up for re-election, we have President Ken Simmons, Treasurer Sarah Foster, Director Pat McClellan. Do we have any nominations from the floor on that? And with no nominations there, again, we accept by acclamation. We now have our board and our foundation. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Don Graham, come up here and remind us of our calendar. A calendar is just an indication of all the great activities that we've not only done in the past, but ones we look forward to doing in the future.
All right. Second to last page in your packet, you will see the annual calendar, and I'd invite you to take a look at that. There's a lot that goes on. There's an event almost every month, and a lot of events that don't show on this calendar that take place. So let me quickly talk through these. The next major event that's coming up is the Ladies' Tea. And I heard tonight that there are over 200 tickets sold already. And so if you haven't got your ticket, you better do it pretty quick. The venue is nice, and so make sure you participate in that. Great evening for the ladies, great afternoon. Afternoon, isn't it? Afternoon. Yes, all right. I was looking at Norm and Rich because there's an even better deal for the men. The men's cookout. And if you see Rich or Norm tonight, they'll get you a ticket at no cost. And you can't beat that deal. There are a few dates here. You can see TBA to be announced. We have to negotiate with some of the schools. But the village cleanup, the high school kids, junior high kids have a fantastic time. It's an outing, and they do a lot of good work. That work is appreciated by Rags, and it's a contribution to the committee. The windmill dedication, you heard how much work went into that thing. I don't know how many times you watch a television program where they'll take a car or a tractor or sometimes a house and take every little nut, bolt, screw off of that thing, refurbish it, and then put it back together. That's exactly what happened to this windmill. There's not one part on that windmill that wasn't taken apart and cleaned and put back together, an amazing amount of work. School in the schoolhouse. We have 2nd and 5th graders from some of the communities come in, and a great time for the kids. If you could be there and see the laughter, hear the squealing and screaming, it would do you good. It'll give you 5 more years to your life if you participate in something like that. Just another great, fantastic contribution Rags makes to the community. The filling station, you've heard about that. A lot of work has gone into that. There's some more to be done, but we want to have a grand opening. We want to acknowledge all of the contributions, financial, labor, time that have gone into that. So much appreciated. We're going to use that building as the headquarters for our Heritage Festival, which is the next event here on the calendar. We're going to have some more community involvement. Matter of fact, Teresa, who owns this place, after just a 1-minute conversation with her about contributing, she's come up with a few ideas. So we're looking forward to that. We're talking to some people about some professional advertising help and so forth. So if you haven't been part of that in the past, you really ought to be there. There's a lot to do and see. We're going to combine it with the Fiber Festival this year. A lot of people are involved in yarn making and weaving and fiber arts. So that will be good. And following that, you can see the Good Old Days Festival. We sort of piggyback on their work. Lots of people come to that event. They see the buildings open in the village. They see some of the displays we have. And particularly families come over, and there's a lot of hands-on activities for them to participate in. So we're looking forward to that as well. The cemetery walk. If you don't visit that, you really should. You don't have to worry about weather. They put up tents. The people who pretend to be dead people, I don't know how to say that any better. They practice. They rehearse this. They're effective, and it's really entertaining, so you'd ought to be there. In November, we're talking to a man by the name of Matthew Daly. He's a professor at Grand Valley State University. He's the Indiana Jones of Michigan. Does a lot of archaeological work, underwater work, scuba diving and all of that. He's part of the Michigan Archaeological Society. He's written a lot of articles and books. We hope, we're planning, he's committed to being here in November for that presentation. December 2nd, Christmas in the Village. Again, a great thing for families. The buildings are open. There's storytelling. There's Mrs. Claus. There's singing in the school. Our piano player and music director is off to my left, your right, or in front of you over there. And then, of course, next January, the annual meeting. So I went over that very, very quickly. There's a lot of things in between these, but there's a lot going on. And if you do want to contribute to any of these, help is always appreciated. So, quick overview of the year.
Thank you, Christine Riley, come on up and give us your reflections from being our historian, editor, our membership leader, and of course, one of the main drivers of our historic team. I know you have a highly capable group that helps you with that.
Thank you, John. I currently wear 3 smaller hats for the society right now, and I promise you I will be brief. The first one is membership. I am chair of the membership, and I just want to remind everybody that's here, 33 years ago, there were 42 people who gathered together to begin what is now RAGS. They are our charter members, and I believe that we have a few of them with us tonight. We have Donna Cockrell. Would you come forward? One of my other hats is as newsletter editor, and I would like a picture. So Donna, would you come forward? George Falco, please come forward as a charter member. Ursula Adamson is a charter member, and Sue Jakubiak is a charter member. Are there any other charter members here tonight? These people, I would really like to recognize them, and I think we owe them our thanks. They started what we have now. So thank you to our charter members. Mary, can somebody Can you get a picture for me, Mary? Thanks. For the newsletter. They were there. There's 4 of them there.
Waiting for George.
And George. Yeah, there were, actually, there were signing charter members. There were 42. And these are the ones that are here with us tonight. And we are very, very grateful for what all of you started 33 years ago. Come on up, George.
It is. Didn't realize it was that long.
That's okay. Slow is okay.
Do we need to move down this way a little? Maybe. Okay, George.
1, 2, 3. Who would have thunk it, huh? Really? Oops, oops, okay. As membership chair, I would also like to remind you or to inform you that we have 145 members on the roster, but 60 of those are couples, so we add 60 to 145, and we have 205 individuals who are members of the society today. So I think that's wonderful. Based on our charter membership, which was only 42. Of that 205 individuals, 83 of them are lifetime members, and 30 of them live out of state. So they're people who have a connection to Richmond in some way, but they live out of state and they stay connected with us. 7 of those members were new in 2022. And I believe we have a couple of them with us. Jackie Cook, maybe some of you remember her as Jackie Fogarty. Jackie, wave to us. And are the Rathbergs here tonight? That would be Bonnie and David Rothberg, are they here? Okay. Well, Jackie, you are our representative for our new member from last year. Okay. My other hat is as historian editor, the newsletter. Are you reading the newsletter? Okay. Sometimes sometimes I get feedback on that, and I really appreciate it because that feedback tells me what you're reading, what you want, what you'd like to see more of. There are 49 members that have that mailed through the United States mail, and 96 of you receive it through email. And I hope those of you who do receive it through email will print it and take time to read the contributions that are there. Is there anything right now? I just want to throw this out to the group. Is there anything that you would like to see? Is there anything in there that you particularly, I mean, when you can't wait to get the newsletter, what do you open it for? I would really like your feedback. I'm looking for fodder. I'm looking for pictures, for stories, anything that anybody can let me know. Does anybody have any comments on the newsletter? Can tell me what you would like to see more of or less of? Does anybody have any comment on that? Okay, we'll move right along. My other hat that I'm wearing, excuse me, I have to move this, is my other hat that I'm wearing right now is as the Historic Tea co-chair. And Sue Jakubiak is the co-chair with me. She will tell you a little bit about, just to bring you up to date on what it's all about and what we do. Because it is one of our biggest fundraisers here at the society, and I want to give you Sue.
Thanks, Chris. I just wanted to share with you, and I believe it's already been told, that we have over 200 tickets sold. We are probably going to be starting a wait list soon, and for every 8 people on the list, we will add another table. Hostesses volunteer, they bring their china from home. Every table is different. And then we have a program and a speaker. The other thing I wanted to share with you is the tea started in 2013. And in 2013, a group of ladies got together. I believe their goal was $1,000. as a fundraiser, and they met at the community center at Beebe Park. And from there, they moved the tea, it continued to grow, they moved it here to this building for 4 years. We outgrew this building, and we moved it to Golden Hawk out in Macomb County, and we were there 2 years. COVID hit, 2 years we did not have a tea, and we just moved the tea last year to Solitude Links Golf Center, Golf Course and Banquet Center, which is in Wadhams. That facility will hold us for quite some time. The grand ballroom holds 500 people, so we shouldn't outgrow that. But the other thing I wanted to share is the tea is the major fundraiser for our historical society. And last year, we had almost 200 ladies enjoy the tea, and we made $8,300. And to date, I have a little cheat sheet here, and I'm going to just round the numbers up, but to date, not including this year, the tea has made $45,000 for the society. And my last comment is, as I got to putting these notes together, I realized when we have our tea, March 18 of this year, at Solitude Links, and we know that our attendance is over 213, I think was the last ticket sold today. When we finish that tea, our profits, it's almost guaranteed, our profits will take us over $50,000. Thank you. Is it in the holder?
Yeah. Thank you, Sue. And as I mentioned earlier, there are some tickets left, so if you, is this on? No? Yes? No? What do I have to do?
Let's see here, you are. Ooh, it's called dead.
Okay, it's dead. All right, I'll use teacher voice. I haven't forgotten that. Okay, so we do have a few tickets left if you want them, or if you would like to invite your friends, let us know. There is one other thing I want to talk about with membership. I want to go back there for just a moment. We have some people here who were snowbirds in earlier years who weren't able to join us, and it is I'm so happy to see the Cockrells, Donna Cockrell, and Donna and Dale Quick with us. They usually are in Florida, but they're not this year, so it's really great to have you with us. Yeah, our out-of-town people, and yeah, it's just, everything is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. All right. Each year, when we gather, we invite someone who has deep roots in the community. Just give a snapshot. Now, this is a very difficult. I'll harken back to one of our past presenters who gave us in 20 minutes the history of medicine and medical experience in this community. Now, to shrink that, Pat McClellan had to practically shrink everything he knew into 20 minutes. It was a blur, but it was a fantastic experience. Keith Ringert, would you come up and give us your slice of Richmond today? A man who has deep roots, he and his wife and his family in this community. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. Okay, I should say first of all, when I volunteered for this, Diane gave me a call. She gave it the call, and Sally took the message. When I called back, you know, I said, what do you want me to talk about? Because, you know, I know how nice it was with the other presentations. I really enjoyed Dr. McClellan's presentation. The Weeks family presentation was great. The Miller Transit, you know, I enjoyed all those. And what I wrote on the note was how the township is what I got from Diane. So, you know, seeing I wasn't involved with my own business, some memories being around Richmond. I've been in Richmond. At first I thought, well, you know, Art Raleigh or Jim McKernan or Gordon Firstenall or Vern Pearl would have been great ones, you know, to be up there because they were actually a little bit before me. But I really appreciate what this organization does, you know, the community theater and so many great things, the service organizations in town. So, you know, and it goes back to 1948. So I've been around in Richmond Township since 1948. Went to St. Peter's. I was actually, I saw a picture that St. Peter had with their history. I was there in 1950 when they cut the ribbon for St. Peter's, the current building that's out there. Cornerstone is 1948, but so my dad was carrying me at that time. Also went to Richmond High School, great education, really enjoyed that, appreciated that. Had Lola B. Weeks for Latin for 2 years, you know, and I guess my jobs in Richmond were, you know, as soon as I could pedal a bicycle, I was delivering the Detroit Times, and actually had one of the customers on Churchill Street, Bemis Bentley, you know, which I think everybody pretty much knows. But those were all good times and good memories, and I think anybody that's lived in town or even moved here, you know, understands and appreciates the close-knit community. You know, I remember going to the grocery store, Smith & Schwartz, and that was, Smith & Schwartz was over in Marseilles, which is now Mike Kerr's insurance agency. But going there with my mother and Bill Schwartz, my mother said, when's he gonna start working here? And Bill Schwartz had a grease pencil and he put a line, you know, up on the doorway. And sure enough, I was working at Smith & Schwartz. You know, the other jobs I had shoveling manure over at Square Acres, which was the Lions Park originally, and cleaning out the hall. You know, and you know, that was a good one. And also when Medi Lodge first opened, you know, I was in the bedpan area. So I have a lot of experience coming into this in politics. What I did is I looked at thank you. I looked at you know, the areas when I was told how the township was. I thought, well, I better break this down a little bit into a couple different areas. And the first one I picked was how area townships came into existence. And I know we have you know, a lot of township officials and city officials, but it's probably the most misunderstood type of government. It's local government. Local government, you know, goes from townships. It also includes the cities, villages, school districts, cities. Did I mention cities? And also county. County government is the highest area of local government. Then you go on to state and move on to the ones that make the rules for us. So how the townships, Richmond area, you know, is, and the service area for this club, just like you said, was Casco, Columbus, Richmond Township, Lenox Township, and the city of Richmond. So thinking of Ken Simmons when he talked about Indians for, I think that was about 2 years ago. Like he said, the Chippewa Indians, this was all Indian territory here. So I kind of wondered how in the world did, you know, the townships, how did it start with townships? So, you know, I looked back a little bit into the history. So this was all Indian territory. The Europeans, as everybody knows, they were looking for new lands, and they were staking claims. The English, in Spain and France, you know, they were all claiming different properties. And as Ken mentioned, with the Chippewa Indians and most of the Indian tribes, they weren't concerned with boundaries or property lines and all this stuff. They felt, you know, nobody owned the property, you know. And as soon as the Europeans came over, this is what they started doing, you know, and as we all know, didn't quite like, you know, the other countries running us when we had the 13 colonies. So in 1776, there was, you know, independence was declared. And then, you know, the independent states, the United States, they looked at opportunities themselves out to the west. So it wasn't too long after, in this Great Lakes region, it was named the Northwest Territory, and properties were for sale. So you had area farmers that, you know, that the first ones that settled in the townships around here, and also the village and the city here. They, it was called the Michigan Territory. They would come out to the area, look for property to purchase. They'd come by themselves, the head of the household, and then stake out their claim, pay for the property, and then they would go back New York or the east side of the United States, and then come back with their cattle, their family, you know, all the equipment they needed for farming. So, I mean, this was all before townships were, you know, even originated. So in 1812, the farmers began settling the area with their families. And in 1818, Northwest Territory, they made Macomb County became the third county in Michigan Territory. So this is, you know, and there was a governor, Governor Cass at the time, and he was a territorial governor. And that's where, you know, the county seat got named. Christian Clemens, everybody I think pretty much heard about that. He was the first settler in Mount Clemens, so that's where the county seat began. And then the county was named after General Alexander Macomb, so that's where we get Macomb County. And, you know, they were, the importance at that time with government was, you know, public safety and military, actually, at that time, because, you know, things were not real solid as far as ownership or which country or who owned the property or who would try to reclaim it. So Governor Cass started out, he had 3 county commissioners, and then he appropriated $400 for a courthouse and a jail. So in 1837, Michigan became the 36th state. So that's when the organization of cities and townships began. Opened up the structure for townships, and it was Thomas Jefferson. It was the brainchild of Thomas Jefferson. And it was amazing. You know, he wanted to make sure it was grassroots. There was many people involved. You know, he wanted to be government by the people, for the people. You know, this area began to grow. And they opened up the ability for townships to form. I put down some of the things, the organization of Richmond Township, and I think a lot of people heard it, and you'll see that Richmond Township was formed in 1938. Just 1 year behind Lenox Township, 37, then Columbus Township in 49, and also Casco Columbus in 1849. The organizational meeting for Richmond Township was at the home of George Perkins. I'm kind of preaching to the choir, so I'm sure you all know where George Perkins' home is on Armada Ridge, right across from Stryker's Bowling Alley, the bigger green home. And because of lack of room when they were organizing the township, they had to meet outside by the woodpile. And if all these people were in that house, I could understand that with their families. So there was a great interest in government. They wanted to be part of it, and they wanted to have their say in it. Name of the township, Richmond Township, was proposed by Philip Cudworth. The first supervisor was Hiram Hathaway, clerk George Perkins, assessor John Hicks and Jesse Huff, overseers of the poor, Jesse Weldon and Russell Peters. And it's amazing, you know, how structured this all was all of a sudden. I mean, being a township supervisor, you know, for a period of time, you know, and without, you didn't have any communication with, you didn't have internet, you didn't have any types of other communication. It's amazing to get this many people together in here it is in 1838. They had commissioners of highways, they had constables for law and order. They had commissioners of school, they had fence viewers, and pound master. And I think the pound master was one, if somebody got in trouble and they had be in detention for a while, they, you know, the animals and the livestock would be cared for. I think, is that correct? Ursula can correct me on that after. This is all fact-checked after. Thus, the township of Richmond was born in 1838. And like I said, Lenox and Casco were shortly after. My experience in government was when I was in high school, class of 66, I got a D in government and never wanted to take another class again. So after that, you know, I went on and after I became a teacher, you know, we moved back to Richmond Township, so we were on our Maida Ridge. And I guess a curiosity as far as what's going on with township government got to me. I got my tax bill and, you know, looked at that and I thought, well, I wonder what they do at the township. So I talked to Glenn Port, a neighbor down the road, and I said, Glenn, how about we'll go to township meeting. And I remember we sat in the back row. Vern Pearl was supervisor at the time. And, you know, they went through the meeting and they kept kind of looking back at Glenn and I, you know, and they would kind of say, well, do you have something you want to ask us or anything? And we really didn't. We were just there to observe the meeting. It was probably about 2 weeks later, the township clerk at the time came over and said, Keith, we've got this planning commission. We need a planning commission member. And, you know, probably one of the longest is Pat McClellan with his planning commission. So I started the planning commission about 72. Then, you know, went to, got to be about 1984. Let's see where we're going. We had a lot of things going on in the township. We had, you know, Detroit Edison, you know, high power lines, all those things that happen when you're on the planning commission. But also what's going on in the 70s was the failing landfills. You know, and I just kind of want to mention this, the landfills all around Macomb County were failing all through the state. So the state came up with a plan. You know, each county should take care of their own trash, and each county should, you know, have a waste planning commission to, you know, to determine what the plan was going to be for so many years of waste. That kind of opened things up because in Macomb County, if you understand Macomb County with all the cities and you know, like Clinton Township is you know over 100,000 people, and you know the property and the open land was all out here. So that was a gold rush kind of to find a site, a placement site, which it ended up that Richmond Township, the 80 acres on you know, at First and R Road and Mackey Road, it was great because all the community joined together. You know, we had support from the city of Richmond, you know, as far as really proving that our site was not the best site. It was unfortunate it had to be in Macomb County at all, but you know, that's what happened, you know, with the landfill. We fought and won, I guess you could say. Other things that were happening in the 70s was a highlight that I always enjoy talking about is Richmond Lennox EMS. There was another cooperative venture, between the city and the townships, and it ended up that Richmond Lennox EMS, and I guess, a couple of the people, Vern Pearl was very involved with it. We got George Falco, very involved with it, and I know I'm going to miss some, but Mike Stahl, and then there was Kathy Capozzo. And the way things were going, at that time in the 60s, what we had before Richmond Lennox EMS was in service, we had Richmond High School guys that would be over at Hench's funeral home. And the hearse would have, they put the bubble on the top of the hearse, for car accidents, along with the Richmond Fire Department. They had a rescue truck. But there was really nothing you could do to save somebody, other than, rush as fast as you could to a hospital. So that was one of the greatest things that happened, too, I think, in our area that I think township residents and anybody around can be proud that it went on. So 84 is, kind of when I was elected, went through, I went through all the different posts for trustee, treasurer, and then supervisor. And then in 2002, went on to, county commissioner. And my goal there was pretty much, I was still following the trash because every few years the solid waste plan has to be redone. Fortunately, I guess I was on the chairman of the solid waste committee for the renewal for the state. And, when people are out there, they want to get a second, competition is good. So I never put that on the agenda because the best thing about the original solid waste plan that John Hertel had a lot to do with was, one site and only one site. And so that's something that everybody should probably watch for again. The landfill was actually put to rest when we did a millage and the township bought the landfill property for $300,000. 2-year mill, we raised about, I think it was 280, some $1,000, and the township thought that was the best to do. We've always recognized in our township that we're the only community in Macomb County. There's 12 counties, or there's 12 townships, 12 cities, and 3 villages. We're the only ones without our own fire department, and we're very happy about it because sharing services can save everybody money. The other thing that kind of proud of is we ended up building a new township hall. That was the biggest complaint when we came in 84. And we ended up without any taxpayer money, doing the township hall as well. The one meeting, we're proud to have the school section schoolhouse out there. George Falco came to a meeting one time out there. Jim McKernan was supervisor. And he sat down, he says, well, we're going to do this historic village and we'd like to move that schoolhouse if somebody would donate it. Jim McKernan quickly answered he donated it, and the township with community development block grant funds assisted with that. But those were just a couple of the highlights. I know I'm going on and on. Annexation issue, the school section schoolhouse. A lot of good things, and it's all due to people like you. I have, I'll take a flyer around, it's understanding township government, because only 20 states have got township government, people don't really understand it. Township supervisor, you get calls wanting to talk to the engineering department, you're talking to them, and their toilet doesn't flush or whatever. But I think it's important to keep, for any elected official, I'm sure Tim does this in the city too, it's a learning experience. You have to be teaching all the time. you have to be patient. You know, zoning issues, you know, such as the rezoning for the landfill, not good. That's what I saw, the trend when I was coming in. They, first of all, a developer would come by and ask through Freedom of Information Act for your budget. They want to know how much money you have. And then they want to cite things where they probably shouldn't be. You know, such as, you know, I mean, mobile home sightings. And, you know, the courts kind of determine the outcome. It's unfortunate because, you know, not all townships are alike. You know, the populations are different. We're more agricultural. Anybody have any questions? No? Be glad to talk to you after. I have, from Jamie Green, this is a really good publication. It's how state and local government operates, and then I have a one-page flyer that, you know, that I always use when people run for township government. Every township government, over 1,200 townships in the state, there's, out of the 1,200 townships, they're all structured the same. They're you know, they all have a supervisor, they all have a clerk, they all have a treasurer, and they either have 2 or 4 trustees. And that's one of the dangers. If you're in a small township, when I became treasurer, you know, I was treasurer. There was no staff member, and you know, the supervisors originally did the assessing. You know, that's no more. Now you have to have a state certified assessor, and there's good reasons for all that. And the clerk is the one that runs the elections. So all those things are important. You know, I really do like, you know, the form of township government, and but it's good to all work together. Thank you.
Isn't it great to have a great wellspring of resources and information just in our own communities? There you go.
Well, thank you, Keith. It was certainly interesting. I found it interesting to learn that you started out in groceries, you went to money stalls, to bed cans to trash. Wow! Good job. But seriously, thank you for all your hard work in the township. And this is a part of the evening that we kind of wind things down, and it's called our Year in Review 2022. Stories to Tell, Chapter 32. Before we get started, I would like to let's think back on the year of 2022, the members that we lost: Charlene Hawes, Ralph Rines, Ned Gowett, Janet Kelke, Janet Kruger, Wilbur Berkey, Linda Schember, and David Foster. And it's been touched on earlier this evening that we would not have society if it weren't for those 45, 48 people who gathered together that became our charter and had to brainstorm to start something significant as a society. And last year we had with us Ursula Adamson, George Philippo, and Suji Kubiak, 3 of our charter members, and we are fortunate to have more here this evening. So nice to have you with us. And of course, any organization is built on a foundation, and our past presidents, George Philippo, Laurel Firstenoff, Gil Morris, and Christine Rowley, were all instrumental in getting us to where we are today, and we thank them for their hard work. In 2022, we had programs and events. We had our annual dinner, which you're at now. And we sat with friends, had drinks, had dinner, had great conversation. And I would like to say at this point that I am quite sure that I have missed some people, and I apologize for that, and I bring it on my old age. We have Don Graham talk to us about our society last year. Our Vice President, Ken Simmons, gave us the state of the foundation. Susan Foster talked to us about our historic tea, Christine Rowley membership, and Tom Beal spoke to us about the task force that was put together for the station. Rich Weiner again gave a wonderful presentation on our long-term preservation. Diane Gibson was our treasurer and spoke to us about some of those funds, and Norm Gibson on acquisitions and the museum curator. All spoke to us last year and again this year, and we look forward to hearing them next year. Rich Weiner, one of our Braves members, you all know Rich, received the Doug Pensy Volunteer of the Year Award from John Moore, and I think Christine touched base on this, that other RAG members, Dr. Pat McClellan, Keith Ringert, and Tom Hagel also have received that award, and they're Braves family members. So we're very proud of that. We elected our officers. And then we had a slice of Richmond by Dr. Pat McClellan, and he came in costume, which was just wonderful. And the only one in costume, by the way. But he spoke to us about his time in Richmond, moving to Richmond, raising a family here, and the many medical changes that took place not only within our community, but throughout the state and globally, actually. It was a very interesting presentation, of which I can remember very little, except for that he did talk about the changes in Richmond. And the work continued. The garage emerged as a filling station. The windmill became upright. The school received a new coat of paint. And with the addition of the windmill, we have all the Richmond area now represented in our village. I think that was also touched upon this evening. The biggest fundraiser, as you heard, for the Historic Society is the Historic Tea. And the theme last year was Wedding Gowns Through the Ages. And two very special gowns that were there at the tea, and we could see was the gown that Jimmy Foster wore on her wedding, and one that Susan Foster wore on her wedding. The story behind those gowns was really quite fascinating. We need to thank our board chairpersons for the tea, Christine Rowley and Susan Kubiak, who put in many hours putting that all together, along with a committee. The sponsors for the tea are listed, they're local sponsors, so we encourage all of you to reach out to those people and support them as they have supported us through the years. Keith Ritter was our doorman, and he escorted the ladies into the building so that they could find their tables. We had some ladies toasting with their tea, and of course we had a beautiful table set. We would be here another half hour if I were able to show all those pretty tables, but trust me, they're quite wonderful. Diane Gibson, our treasurer, and Amy Foster took charge of the raffle, and the special silent raffle that we had last year was donated by Tom and Christine Hagel, and it was a cabin vacation. That went over quite well. It was very popular. Thank you, Tom and Christine. And of course, when we're sipping tea, the men are having their wiener roast there in the village, and I've been told that what happens at the wiener roast stays at the wiener roast. So I really can't comment on that part of the program. We'll have to check with Rich. The Richmond Middle School comes every year to Village Cleanup Day. And actually, when I was teaching at the middle school, I brought the student council kids over there, so began the tradition of having them come in to the village each year. It's a great day. They walk over and they clean the school, they move furniture, They sweep the barn, they sweep the cabin, they help in gardens, they rake the lawn, and then they have pizza. I think they come for the pizza. I'm not sure on that, but I've heard. That's the first question they ask. Are we having pizza today? Of course we're having pizza today. We have school visits at the village this year. Our May 5th grade, the Richmond 5th grade actually come to the school section of school and attend school in the school. And then the second graders come over and they tour the building. So they get like a preliminary education on what the village is, and they look forward to coming back in the 5th grade. The Heritage Festival, one of the biggest festivals we have, well, this is the biggest festival we have at the village, and our chairperson, Don Graham, works endlessly on that also, does a wonderful job. Doug and Sharon Port are at the registration desk, and we need to thank our sponsors for that, Family Farm and Home, and Shepherd Sales and Service. We had a number of donors also for that event, and those people are listed here. And again, year after year, these people give to this particular festival to support the society and help the village grow. We had fun, we had food, we had demonstrations, we had tractors, we had cars, and we had a parade. And pictured here is Doug Porritt. He's the conductor of the barrel train, and it's one of the highlights of this particular day when all the little ones are in there, and he drives them around the village and rings the bell, and they just have a wonderful time. Each year we have a heritage featured family. Last year was a quick family, and this year was the Bagley family. Now, if anyone here would like to feature their family, we set the demonstration up in the school, and we have people that can help you if you need help with finding some information that you would like to present. If you're interested, we really need another family this year. See Don Graham or myself, and we can make that happen. At the Heritage Festival, we had a foster family donated a Michigan raffle basket, and pictures Kenny Yelenich, Susan Foster, and Sarah Foster. We had cars, we had trucks, we had tractors. The Huron Clinton Metro Parks had a booth set up, as did the Macomb County Farm Bureau. That was new to the Heritage Festival this year, and really a great addition. We had a spinner and a wood carver, lace makers, and children's games. And you'll see Chris Hanch and Chris Nolan ran the children's games. Today it was just an exhausting day, as you can see. And they really got those kids moving and going. And on the top right-hand corner, you will see that we have a young man who started a fire. And it was contained, so it was safe, and that was a demonstration that Don Graham put on. And boy, I'll tell you what, it was the highlight of the day. Those kids just gathered around and really had a great time. Naturally, they went in and milked the cow. We had docents in our buildings, and if someone's here and I missed a picture of you, I apologize. I tried to get around as fast as I can and get everyone, but I'm sure I had missed someone, so I do apologize for that. All the buildings were open. And one of the most exciting things of the weekend, for me anyway, was that one of our student helpers decided to become a member. And so he is now our youngest member of our society. And it was so cute because he was talking about who he thought he'd like to become a member and how he'd join. And so he decided he wanted to do this, but first he needed to call his mom and ask her to make sure it was okay. I just thought that was just so precious. And our raffle basket was won by Tim and Lori Bricks, who were also there. And there the guy is. It's all over, and he is feeling groovy. New event, or events that we added this year, was what we call Garden Fest. And there were 4 great evenings that were throughout the summer. It was a brainstorm really of Diane Gibson, and we thank her for organizing that. And Marcia Phillips was there, and she talked about her gardens, and there's nothing better than listening to Marcia talk about her passions with gardens and butterflies and the bugs and the weeds. So they were really 4 really nice evenings. Thank you, Marcia and Diane. A new event this year was the Festival of Fires, and it was in July. And it was also the time when we do our little event called Into the Village, where we just invite people to come in and walk the sidewalks and look at buildings, and again talk about the beautiful gardens and flowers. That is being moved this year to the end of July when we do the Heritage Festival and Michigan Log Cabin Day. The St. Clair Garden Club visited us this year, and you can see there, Marcia again is showing all the garden club members her butterflies and how she raises them and cares for them and takes them on trips when she has to leave home so that she knows that they're taken care of. Who does that? Marcia does. And so they found it really quite interesting, and it was a wonderful presentation that she did. And of course, those ladies had to ring the bell, just like all kids when they're in that school. They need to ring the bell. We did Good Old Days again this year. Good Old Days has taken on a little different flavor the last couple of years. We really kind of went back to our roots on that, and we try to highlight the history of the buildings. We have people in all of the buildings, games in the barn, hands-on activities throughout. And of course, our beautiful gardens and our garden workers who transform that village every year into just a breathtakingly beautiful, beautiful area. And our garden angels last year were Marcia Phillips, Steve Phillips, Charlotte Krasinski, Penny Elmanich, Charlotte Ward, and Chris Nolan. Thank you to our gardeners. We had our 5th annual Living History Cemetery Walk. And I have to say, it's such a pleasure for me personally to be involved in that particular event, and the people who every year put hours into researching their characters and coming up with costumes and rehearsing so that they can give an accurate presentation of that person during their lifetime and how that lifetime impacted Richmond and how they were impacted by Richmond. It's a nice little event. If you're around in September, we would love to have you join us. And of course, we have the dynamic duo of Pat McClellan and Alicia Marshall back with us. Every year we look forward to those two being a part of the cemetery walk. And I have to say, I have been asked a couple of times, will Lucia and Dr. McClellan be there? Yes, we were there. So I don't know if they're the draw. They're part of it, I think. Norm Gibson did a presentation on George Weston, and this was, I think, your second time, Norm, to join us. It was a wonderful presentation, and you'll see there Brian Shoddy with a fire truck. Well, the story behind that fire truck is that there was and Norm, I know you'll correct me if I did this wrong.
I don't care.
You don't care? Oh, okay. Anyway, the fire truck actually put out, was coming through Richmond. There was a fire, they put the fire out, it saved the town of sorts, and so Richmond decided they needed to buy that fire truck. So this is the original fire truck that put the fire out. Did I get that right, Norm?
Close enough.
Oh, good. And new to our cemetery walk this year was Richard Grant. He portrayed O.B. Evans, and O.B. Evans was the president, I think they called it at the time, of Richmond for 34 years. And it's quite an interesting story of O.B. and his wife. And you'll see Richard is there with a wheelchair, and O.B. did end up being in a wheelchair in the later years of his life. And that wheelchair was given to him by the Richmond Lions Club. It was one one of the first wheelchairs we had, and it went to O.B. Evans. Another presentation was a portrayal was given by Karen Carroll, and it was Letty Claggett Bailey, and as you all know, the Claggett family goes back in history many, many years. And lastly, I did Louise Springborn for the Springborn Hotel, and many of us remember or have heard of the Springborn Hotel over by the Grand Trunk Railroad tracks. And it was really an interesting, I think I said that wrong, but it was really an interesting study for me, the different stages of coming into the country, how they started out, and how they ended up with this grand hotel in Richmond. Our program in November was when Amelia came to Michigan. Another really fascinating story, because many of us don't think about Amelia Earhart in Michigan, but she flew many, many flights from Michigan to other parts and to Michigan, and she even spoke at Port Huron High School one time when she was here. So she did have some ties to Michigan. And then last year is our holiday evening in the village. And this is really a special time, I think, for the village, because everything is warm and inviting, and we had Christmas through the years set up in the school. Thank you to Penny Ellenage and Marcia Phillips and Casey Wyman and some others who really helped make that a special place during the holidays. Mary Gislander helped in the school, Chris Hemsch and Marcia Phillips. And then we had these wonderful children come in and play the piano all during the evening in the school. And I have to thank Sean Graham for that. Sean, I do want you to stand up, please. Please stand up, because Sean organizes this. Yes, kudos to Sean. Thank you, Sean. She organizes it, she gets those kids in there, she rehearses with them, they come in, they play these wonderful Christmas tunes throughout the night, and all I said to her was, Sean, do you think you could do this, please? And then I said, thank you, Sean. So everything in between was all Sean, and it was so wonderful. And you can see there that not only did they play the piano, but they also led in carols. And just a real quick little video of them doing that, because I know you all miss Christmas carols right now. The best singers. We had our cabin decorated for the holidays, and a beautiful little tree St. Nicholas brought in, and we decorated it to go along with the cabin theme. We had story time in the cabin, and as you can see, one little one thought that it was bedtime, so wrapped up in the quilt on the floor and laid down while I was reading a story. It must have been a riveting story. Some of them wore their fronts, and some of them wore their backsides. And Miss Richmond from 2021 was at the village that night and went through the buildings, and it was nice to share that with her. Al Collins and Norm Gibson were docents, and Diane set up the toys in the museum. And yes, Virginia, there is a Mrs. Claus. And I want to tell you that I don't think there is anyone on the face of this earth that could be Mrs. Claus other than Sandy Windsor. It is, thank you so much. And I truly mean that with all my heart. It is just the most special way and special time that she has with those children when they come into that sleigh and they sit, and she has a little notebook, and she talks to them, real soft, really sweet voice. I tried. And she takes notes of what they say, and then she says, well, I'm going to tell Santa now that this is what you told me, and she tells little stories about her playing with Santa, and it is probably the most special time of of the whole evening. So again, thank you, Sandy, it's just beautiful. And of course, who helps her out? No other than Max. So thank you, Max. And that concludes our year in review. Those were some of the helpers that night. But one thought that I would like to share, and I really think this kind of hits home a little bit with our village, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when she said, if you want to be a true professional, you will do something outside yourself. Something to repair the tears in your community, something to make life a little better for people less fortunate than you. That's what I think a meaningful life is, living not for oneself, but for one's community. And I have to say that I believe all of you, in your time, and your funds, and your dedication, is all about this community, our Richmond community, and we thank you for everything that you've done.
I am going to steal the microphone from you a minute.
You're stealing a microphone.
I am.
You're stealing a microphone.
I don't know if this is on anymore or not, but I have a loud enough voice. I've been asked to talk about leadership for a couple minutes, and hopefully everybody in this room appreciates civil servants, people who serve in government, whether it's at the township level, the city level, the county level, the state level, the federal level. Keep that in mind when I say this. Of all of the things that have been said tonight, the one line I'm going to remember more than any other, shoveling manure helped prepare me for a life in politics. So I thought that was fantastic. But hopefully by now you feel a sense of pride in the organization that you're part of. There is so much that has gone on in the past years that are just remarkable and such a tremendous contribution to this committee, this community, I should say. And I don't know, probably you have this experience as well. I'm going to talk quite quickly here, but when I walk into places like Family Farm and Home, Ace Hardware, Ken's Kitchen, Papa's Restaurant, quite often they say, what is it you guys are working on? The windmill, what's the status? What are you doing with that garage, the cement block garage and all of that? A key component of all of that is leadership. Leaders, first of all, set a vision. They're passionate about that vision. They execute those plans, make sure they stay on task, on time, and all of that. They balance egos. Most of us here are very passionate about our opinions. We think we're smarter than anybody else. We have better ideas than anybody else, maybe better looking than anybody else. And if you're a leader and have to manage people like that, creative people who are passionate, it's difficult, and it takes good leadership to do that. Sometimes a leader has to be a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes a leader has to be quite firm with people. A leader has to take criticism. Sometimes unfairly, they take criticism that's due somebody else. But when it comes to Rags, John Beard has done a great job in his tenure as president. And we want to express our appreciation for him. I think most of you know that he has made the very foolish and unfortunate decision to move to Arkansas. You pull out the Ozark Mountains and Walmart, there's no reason to be in Arkansas. There's nothing there. But John, we do appreciate all that you've done. And he's going to come and sort of close the meeting tonight, but we have a couple of gifts. One, don't drop on your foot, but even though you're leaving, this will remain behind. You can open that and show everybody what it is.
Acme Brick Company, Columbus, Ohio. No.
And it's not his cemetery stone.
It's my
Tombstone.
my presidential tenure, so I get to snug right in there with Gil Orris and Christine Rowley, George Felco. Man, I'm in great company, isn't that? Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And not only that, but just to remind you of what you're leaving behind. We have another little gift here as a souvenir, and you can open that. But again, we do appreciate, unless you've been president, and I haven't obviously, I don't think we can appreciate the amount of time, effort it takes to do something like this.
Thank you.
And it's, you know, so much goes on behind the scenes that none of us is aware of. And John and his wife, we really appreciate your time and efforts here. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Thank you. 2022 was a pretty eventful year for Marla and I. I was not here for the annual meeting last year, and one of the reasons Don was so gracious was that I got to watch this event from my son's living room while holding a 2-week-old baby, my grandchild. So, yeah, that's where the foolishness. I'm doing a Gil Oris. For those who are familiar with that, I'm following my children. And they moved to Arkansas, and we've moved there with them. And, of course, the first of hopefully many more grandchildren is already there. I cannot thank you enough. We came to this community. There are no, people would ask us about who you're related to. And I said, there are no Beards in the Richmond Cemetery. But one thing we did at least taunt was that Marla's maiden name is Weeks. So there are a few Weekses buried around in the area. And some of them are still alive, and we're happy about that too. So anyway, we came to a community where we didn't have deep roots, but suddenly the people of the community reached out to us. Susan and Dave Foster invited us and got us to be a part of the society. It was to an event that there was this lady walking around and pointing out and explaining about flowers. Now, my experience of flowers is they die. And so Marcia was able with her team to draw and woo us into a lovely setting, a lovely location. Rich and Sue Weiner, and of course the Eleniches were our across the street neighbor. And so we would be constantly being reassured and encouraged. Norm and Diane Gibson came alongside of us in many ways. Norm being the great resource if you want to know how to blow up things, particularly blow up things from the Civil War. Al Collins, the time he and Jan were just a walking encyclopedia. I would ask stupid questions like, what kind of tree is that? And Al, being the gracious man he is, would give it to me in Latin. Then there was Pat and Sandy, McClellan's. If you wanted to know anything about anything, all you had to do was ask the question and stand back. And the encyclopedia pages would just unroll as they would explain these things. Tom Hebel and Christine Rowley. Christine was, in some ways, I thought she had been hit daft when one day she came to me and said, would you consider being on the board as a director? And I thought, I'm still trying to learn everybody's name and who's related. And I'm still trying to be careful not to insult this person, because I know if I insult them, there's 47 other relatives in the community that I'm going to insult by insulting them, and so forth and so on. I always loved our experience with Ursula, because Ursula is always gracious enough to correct you. Whatever great information you have of the history of Richmond, it's wrong, because Ursula knows the right answer. Yes. Then there's Don, who was always willing to sub for me. To hear the phone calls, I'm in California, I can't get to the meeting. It's yours. Chris Nolan has always been there to record and keep it. And she always has this, she says at any time when you ask her a question, she says, oh, I can do that for you. Yes. Many, many, many more. Lori and I, for stepping in and now being our new treasurer, I thank you and encourage you, and also thank you for being a swimming partner. We would always laugh about, you can stand in the pool in Richmond during your water aerobics class on a summer day and watch every city employee work. You don't even have to leave the pool. You watch on time, on course, on their job. You can see whatever's happening in the city of Richmond just by standing in the swimming pool on a summer morning. And Diane Gibson, thank you for stepping in to be the new president of RAGS. Thank you very much. You two guys. And it's time for raffle. Come on up.
All right, now for the fun part. Give away some money. I need an assistant to pull a ticket out. Marcia, would you help me? This is for third place. It'd be worth $50.
I'm gonna hand it to you.
Sure. Then I gotta read it, right? 626139. Hey!
Okay.
They donated it back. Thank you very much. All right, for second, for $70.
What?
626420. 420.
Oh, these workouts.
Very good.
Salad.
In first place, $110, 626054. Hey, Chris.
Marcia, did you put your initials on yours? Well, who is the winner?
All right, thank you very much.
All right, I've just been asked, yeah. Pat?
Great job. Doug Logan, long team of I consider it one of the most intriguing books I've read. There is a very close Richmond connection to the subject matter of this book. The name of it is I Look and See, written by a man named Eric Newman. Several people here have read the book, several people here own the book and have not yet read it. When they finish it, I hope to start unofficially the book of the Richmond Historical Society. First book will be I Look and See. Anybody who's interested, date and time will be announced. Although price is probably the set out column with all the books on this book. I Look and See is a rare. No spoilers at all. It's historic and
John has asked if I would close in a word of prayer, and so let's do that, and then we'll be dismissed. Father, we thank you for the blessings, the enjoyment of the evening. We thank you for an opportunity to look over a year of accomplishment, as well as safety, for which we appreciate. We thank you for the blessings, the encouragement, the benefits that have been given to the community, the participation of all that are here. And, some obviously more than others, but we thank you for even the smallest contribution that is so meaningful to an organization like this. So again, we appreciate this. We ask now that you would give us safety on our way home, appreciating, rejoicing in the things that have been done. We do this in the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen. Thank you very much for being here.